Bill O'Reilly is now with us, anchor of the No Spin News, author of Confronting Evil, host of the We'll Do It Live podcast. Bill, good to see you. Was anything I said in the opening factually incorrect?
No. You're looking at it from a macro point of view, which is very complicated, rather than a micro, which is not. That's the price of gas, price of food, diesel going up, so food will go up. And that's a big problem for the Trump administration and the Republican Party. There's no doubt it's a huge problem. If you think back and you say, if Donald Trump had not decided to go in and confront Iran in late February, he would be, the odds are that the Republican Party would be well ahead in the midterms. So this was a miscalculation. However, I don't think they're sitting around waiting for the mullahs to blow somebody up. From what I understand, there is some kind of strategy that will involve a tougher approach on Iran. I don't know what it is. It's top secret classified. But Donald Trump's legacy is involved. It's personal to him now. Can't let the Iranians make him look like a loser, okay? Because he sees life in terms of winners and losers. And so I do expect something to happen that will at least jar the voters. And nobody can predict how that will come down.
Okay, at least right now, the strategy publicly is this economic blockade of Iran. Here is President Trump talking about the issues you brought up, which is gas prices and therefore diesel prices and oil prices and how that makes everything more expensive. Here you go.
So for you to pay a tiny little bit more for your gasoline, just remember, you're doing it so that a very evil country cannot have a country. Really, it's the #1 state sponsor of terror in the world. We don't want to have them have a nuclear weapon. So remember that when you have to pay a little bit more, you're at $4. It's okay. I mean, it's I'll never apologize. I did the right thing. But you could, if you didn't have.
And Bill, President Trump deserves credit. He is the only president in 47 years to confront the mullahs. You put them on your book, Confronting Evil, for a reason. Iran wants to do the same thing to Donald Trump that they did to Jimmy Carter. Is there any reason to think they won't be successful?
Sure. We have much more power than they do militarily. And at home, the mullahs are banking on the American people turning against President Trump because they hate Trump. And they want Trump to lose the midterms and the Democrats, who are softer on Iran, no doubt about that, to take over. But when the tax refunds start to show up at your house and they're 17% higher than they were a year ago because of the big bill, that'll mitigate things a little bit. But it's all about messaging.
Bill, this is August. Tax refunds showed up in April. They don't show up again until next April.
Well, no, it's a cycle. It depends on, do you know how many people, and I'm not an accountant, but do you know how many people get extensions on their income tax?
And most of those are people who...
filers do.
Most working class Americans file April 15th because they want the refund as soon as possible. If you're getting a refund, you want to file as soon as you can.
That's not necessarily... There's a lot of people who file for extensions. I'm one of them because of varying degrees of complications and things like that. But what I'm trying to say is, look, you've got a country that's robust economically right now. Now, that's not being reported, but it is, particularly in manufacturing. Manufacturing jobs and salaries are up. Manufacturing is doing very well. AI, we're ahead of China. That's going to be in the next 2 or 3 years, but Trump will be gone by then. And then you have a country that is setting itself up not for defeat, economic defeat, but for victory. But nobody knows because the economy is the economy. So right now, what you have is you have a confused population, very confused. And what Newt Gingrich brings to the fore is that he doesn't believe, because he's of the generation that, and I'm of that generation, but not quite where Newt is age-wise. He doesn't believe that most Americans hate their country. He doesn't believe that most Americans hate Trump.
So this is the idea, right?
Presidents.
This is the idea of making it about the other guys, that the socialists are so bad,
yes.
Vote for the Republicans, even if you're not happy with Donald Trump. And Democrats keep going down this route. In Florida, Angie Nixon, Democratic socialist, long shot campaign, way outspent by a guy named Alexander Vindman, who was part of the first Russia hoax and impeachment idea. She just won in Florida to be the Democratic Senate nominee. And we have a little bit of tape from her. Take a listen.
I want to abolish for-profit prisons because I believe right now people aren't educating our children and they're ushering them into the school-to-prison pipeline because they want to exploit labor.
And still, despite all this, Bill, not in Florida, which is understandable, but in Georgia, Jon Ossoff is far ahead. In Texas, the polls are tied. In North Carolina, the Democrat is far ahead. Same in Maine. When, if you're right and Newt is right, are we going to see the American people turn against the Democrats because they're all a bunch of socialists?
It's already happening. All the polls say that American people, not party, just regular folks, don't want socialism. And it's a good measure. I mean, they don't want it. And so the districts that do want it, and there are some of them, get all the headlines, get all the attention. And I got to tell you, the Republicans, and there is no leader in the Republican Party, but the ones in the RNC.
There's no leader in the Republican Party?
This woman.
Isn't Donald Trump the leader of the Republican
Donald
Party?
Trump runs the party. Yeah, he runs it. And there's no close second. So they don't have a messenger other than Trump. And I don't know how long this guy can go at 80 years old carrying the ball for the midterms. But they're overjoyed that this woman won in Florida. The Republicans.
So you think Trump campaigning is a good thing? He's at 33%. You think him going out campaigning is a good thing? Pete Hegseth may be trying his hand at 2028 politics. Secretary of War, during war, took a personal trip to Iowa to campaign in Iowa. Here we go.
President Trump needs the type of leaders who understand why a $1.5 trillion budget, a one-time generational investment, is what is necessary to ensure that my kids and your kids, that your grandkids and my grandkids live in a free country defended by the most powerful military in the world.
Is that what the Secretary of War needs to be doing during war?
I don't know. The Secretary of War, the Pentagon's run by the generals, not Pete Hegseth. But Hegseth is talking to the choir. It's a MAGA play. I mean, he's not going to convince any independents or anybody with that line. And there's nothing wrong with bolstering your base, but when I see these guys go out, they're speaking to one narrow cast. That's who they're speaking to. They're not speaking to people who need to be persuaded. And the only persuader is President Trump. Nobody else. Now, the Democrats don't have anybody. That's a dearth of leadership in this country. There's no leader on the Democratic side. Who? Nobody.
Yeah, there's never a leader on. It's
and
never a leader with the party out of power.
Trump.
Huh? The Republicans do have Trump.
Come on, the Democratic Party over the years has had a bunch of people who were able to. Well, it's not even hard. Barack Obama, even though he never showed up to vote when he was a senator, was a very powerful persuader in the Democratic Party before he
Yeah,
got
and then
nominated.
because everybody knew he was running for
very
president. But your point's made. Bill O'Reilly, thank you very much.
Okay.
When we come.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.